Recording in progress.
That's right. Why, thank you. All right. Well, welcome to Quixotic Heights, the podcast where dreamers become doers, setbacks become stepping stones, and extraordinary people remind us that the most meaningful journeys often begin with one courageous decision. I'm your host, Amy M. Lee, and I'm the award-winning author of the Snow Trilogy, founder and
Yay!
CEO of Quill Publishing.
Yay!
Also a storyteller, and I believe in every voice has the power to inspire, heal, and change the world. Today's guest is someone whose story proves that determination is often louder than talent. In 1996, while many people were following a traditional career path, Charlotte Chiew opened the Yellow Pages and began calling every theater company in Singapore. She wasn't
That was me.
fame or fortune. She simply wanted a chance to learn, and she even offered to clean toilets for free if it meant she could be part of the theater. So, born into a traditional Asian family where the expectation was clear: study hard, find a stable job, get married, buy a home, live a predictable life. Charlotte chose a different script. Despite being told to pursue a normal career, she followed the calling of an artist. So that courageous decision led her into theater, storytelling, eventually to a career as an accomplished audiobook narrator, where brings stories to life through the power of her voice. Today, we're going to explore what it means to choose passion over expectation, how rejection can become your greatest teacher, the artistry behind audiobook narration, and why finding your authentic voice is one of the life's greatest adventures. So, settle in. This conversation is for anyone who's ever been told their dream was impossible. With that,
Oh.
welcome Charlotte Chu to Quixotic Heights. How are you?
Hello, hello. Thank you, Amy, for having me. I am very well and a little bit nervous about being
Well, I'm excited to talk to you because we've been working together for a while, and I hope that we can give you more projects to work on. But you're out in the UK, right?
here. Yeah.
And what time is it there right now?
It's just a little bit after 8 in the
Yeah,
evening.
in the evening. Okay. So we're going to spend the next hour together. I want to start off with just talking a little bit about your origin story. Can you share with the listeners, who is Charlotte and who are you beyond the audiobook narration?
Oh, that's one of the hardest questions. Who am I? I I'm just little old me, you know. I'm a kid who grew up was born in Asia to very typical Asian family. Didn't The reason I got into the reason my mom put me in theater classes was because I was shy. And
Got
she thought it would be good for me to learn to speak properly and, be confident and all of that. And I loved it. Yeah. Uh, I'm just little me. My kids think that I have zero social anxiety because I can go up and talk to any stranger. Um, and that is, I feel like, it's got nothing to do with social anxiety. Or zero social anxiety. I think I just kind of don't realize what it means to be embarrassed.
That's a kind of a good thing. There's freeing, there's something freeing about that. Um, so you started in theater, and did your mom find it interesting that you wanted to continue staying in that kind of artistic realm?
I don't think interesting would be the word she would choose. I think she found it very frustrating.
Mm.
She was constantly, and I mean, not just her, everybody, all the adults in my life were like, "Oh, are you still doing that? Like, why don't you do something like marketing? Because that's really creative too." And I'm like, I never ever thought of myself as a creative person. I just loved the theater. I love the feeling of being on stage and being a character and playing a character and imagining and feeling the things that that character could feel.
Mm.
Yeah, I can't, I still don't think of myself as a creative person most of the time. Some people like sometimes you meet new people and you tell them the things that you do and they're like, "Oh, you're so creative." Or I'm in a church setting and I say, "Oh, how about, here's an idea for doing something." And they're like, "Oh, you're so creative." And sometimes I think that people assume I'm creative because I'm in this line of work or in, industry or um type of work where it's supposed to be creative, but honestly, I think everything is creativity comes in so many different forms, and it's not just like a certain type of work is creative
Hmm.
or
Well, I think you're creative because you're obviously creating different characters through your voice. And I would imagine that you when you have a script to read, you're playing in your head like how is this character going to sound, and you probably, I don't know, test out different voices before you land on one that you're like, okay, this is the character. And to me, that's creative, and that's not something that everybody can do or is born with. So don't sell yourself short, Charlotte. I'm gonna go all the way to UK and kick your butt because
I think
because
you
you
might.
are.
You're always traveling, going
I
everywhere.
I have been known to just get on a plane and go. So how did you navigate the fact that your family, and other people weren't just on board with you pursuing this?
I think I was just pretty stubborn. I have I feel I when I want to do something, I just I I just want to do it, and then I kind of kept going and tried to look for different. Like I think every time you come into a problem, you come face to face with a problem, it it's difficult and it's like, oh, that's not possible. And then I don't know, like my instinctive response to a problem is, well, I guess this way is not going to work. Can I do it another way? And what if I do it the other way? And what if I can I go under it? If I, it's like the bear hunt book. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You have to go through it. I don't know. There are lots of different ways. And I just try to do this and I try to do that. And I like research. So I kind of went around and did all the research. And I'm a pest. I also pester people for things and why, and why is it not possible? And if this is not possible, then can we do that? And yeah,
So
so I
how did you train for something like this? Um,
train to be pestering.
no, train to be. Well, if you're training to be a pester, let me know about that one. Um, how did you train to be a voice actor? Because and there's so one of the things I'm just gonna throw this out there. I am not a fan of vocal fries when people read and have that, guttury guttural sound to them. But some people like it. And so when you're narrating, do you play with your voice in different ways? And, did you have formal training?
Yeah, so I went to theater. I studied theater in very many different places. In Australia, I did a theater studies program. Then I went to Colorado and I did a theater studies program there. And I also trained in Paris,
Mhm.
in a theater school. And there was all sorts of voice, movement, voice work. And I also, this is gonna sound contradictory, but I trained for a few years with a mime. So and you think that mimes are silent people, and
Mhm.
it's not. Mimes are actually really noisy. The definition of a mime actually is just we don't use words, but it doesn't mean we don't make sounds. So there's actually a lot of voice work in mime, and voice is a very physical part of your body. And so there was a lot of that kind of training. To go back to your question about do I try and do a guttural vocal fry kind of sound? No, I don't intentionally try to make my voice gravelly or low just because I know that my kind of range tends to be in the higher middle kitty kind of a voice. Um, but I think with the thing about vocal fry is sometimes it just happens when you don't take care of your voice and or it's tired or it's getting, I want to say older, but that's not quite what I mean. It's just the 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 vocal cords in your body kind of get thinned and not nice sounding if when you're not taking care of it, and that's very often what creates the vocal fry. I do try to play with different voices, but most of the time I think I I'm not somebody with a very kind of dynamic range. So when I play the different characters in the audiobooks, I try and look for a pattern in the way they talk more than pitching the voice.
Mm.
The most distinctive thing would be male female voices, and I feel like my observation, and this is still something that I'm learning to do. I think men tend to mumble more than women, and they kind of like they're a bit lazy and they talk a little bit like this, and it's more that, and also it's motivation. The character's motivation makes them speak differently and brings a different rhythm to their voices. And I think that's kind of when it's just about voice in audiobook narration, it's those are the things that for me are more effective in differentiating a character rather than kind of going into a level or a vocal range that I can't reach or a fry, like you call it.
Mm-hmm. So how do you take care of your voice? Because, I had an opera singer, for example, on my podcast,
Mm.
and she talked about
Oh,
the
did she?
exercises that she did and, when she gets sick, what does she do? So what about you? What's your routine?
I'm really bad. I don't have a routine. I really need to drink more water than I should. I do have a glass of water here.
We'll take a little break for a water drink.
Yeah, no, I drinking. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, this is something that I've learned, and it is true that, drinking while you're doing the job, it's not going to help your vocal cords. It's the drinking from kind of 12 hours ago or 24 hours ago that's going to help your cords stay hydrated. So actually consistent drinking, avoiding tea, caffeine, those kinds of
Mhm.
things. And also because voice is a lot of it, like I said right early on, it's very physical. So actually there's a lot of work going on in your core, and if your muscles are not working correctly, you're going to be pushing here, and that's going to tire you out so quickly. So it's a lot of core work. And really it is also practice. There are some seasons in my life that I have more audiobooks to do, and some seasons where I have fewer. And interestingly enough, if they're very spaced out, like if I'm only doing like one recording in every 2 weeks, my voice is actually worse than if I'm consistently like when I'm just starting back into like a very packed schedule. The first couple of days I really struggle, and then after that, in the middle and towards the end, I'm actually stronger because it's a consistent working. It's a consistent workout.
Yeah. So you're more warmed up and
Mm.
yeah, ready to go.
But
Okay.
it's not even a warm up like 15 minutes before or whatever. But it's a consistent. It's like working out. Like if you're doing it every day, you get stronger by the end of the month.
Yeah. So voice acting is kind of your bread and butter right now. Do you do
Face
like
acting.
huh?
So there's voice acting and then there's face acting.
That's true because I've seen you on video and your facial expressions are very animated. Um, which is good.
Yes. Yes, I started in theater, as I've mentioned, and then I moved on to screen, and I still do screen acting. I still want to do theater. I haven't done theater for the longest time, but yeah.
Yeah. What about like jingles or commercials or
I don't sing. I have I have performed live like songs in on theater, on stage in theater, but as a rule, my agents don't tend to put me up for singing. Yeah.
So you have an agent or you have agents?
I have multiple agents
Mhm.
actually. So I have an acting agent, and multiple voice agents because in the UK, because I'm not a British voice and I'm not an American voice, I'm kind of in between what we call an international school accent. Um, so there isn't. I don't really know why that works out this way. The consensus is that there isn't necessarily enough work for one agent to be securing you work. So they don't offer you exclusive representation, which is really cool because then it kind of means that you can have multiple different agents and sometimes somebody will give you something that somebody else doesn't have. So
So I imagine you're kept pretty busy. I mean, I'm sure there's seasons, but
yeah, definitely
mm,
seasons.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Is there any particular genre or style that you really enjoy doing?
Are you talking about audiobooks or kind of
Yeah, audiobooks.
audiobooks? At the moment, I really want to. This year, I've said to myself, I really want to focus on romance and fantasy. I've done a couple of romance things. There's a YA series that I'm doing, and then a college series that I'm also doing romance stories, and that's really nice. And then I've done a little bit of like short, dark fantasy type stories, but fantasy tends to be harder, I guess, for me to find at the moment. So I'm reading a lot. I'm talking to a few different authors, but nothing's really come out of that yet. But that's something that I really want to get into because as a reader, I really love those kind of books.
hmm So you said that your voice is not American accent, not British accent. What is your accent?
What is my accent? Um, I I call it the kind of American, sort of British, um, with the occasional optional Asian lilt.
Got it.
But I mean, I have been trained to perform British. I've been trained to perform American, so I can do sort of the general American accent or what we call the British RP. It's not really RP because RP is really kind of received pronunciation, which is Queen's English and it's very stiff, very formal. Most of the time, the thing that people want to hear is more a neutral British accent, which I do very well. What becomes a little bit trickier is when people are looking for a generic regional accent, so like a Southern American or a Northern British, then it becomes a little bit like it's not quite in my wheelhouse.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm So what does your typical day look like when you wake up to when you go to sleep?
Oh gosh. It's a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Very sad. It's a lot of marketing and emailing.
I know about marketing
It's
and
a
how
lot
fun
of
it is.
it's a lot of getting, thinking about who am I going to contact so that I can try and get the next project. It's a lot of trying to find ideas to collaborate with people on. It's a lot of yeah, it's a lot of administration. It's a lot
hmm
of invoicing.
hmm
It's a lot of yeah, it's a lot of discussions. It's a lot of maybes and it's a lot of ooh down the line we could do this and then following up is a lot of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So you recently did a JIAM, right? June.
Yes, June
Yeah.
is audiobook month.
Yes. Can you tell me a little bit more about that experience and why
I
you
would
did
love to tell
that?
you about that experience. June is audiobook month, as the title says. June. It's a time where people just celebrate audiobooks. I don't know who came up with that, but I've heard about it for about 3 years now, 3, 4 years now. And it's always a really fun time for narrators and publishers and indie authors to come together and talk about their audiobooks. And last year, a friend of mine and another narrator taught me. Okay, this is gonna sound really dumb. Taught me how to use Instagram.
Uh-huh.
Before that, I had an account. I know that I can scroll and I didn't quite understand like a lot of the functions on it. So I never ever used Instagram. Um, but she taught me how to use it, and she taught me how to use it because last year's June is audiobooks month. She said, "Let's do some lives," and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." I'm just like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." So we did it, and it was quite fun actually. I don't know how much, interaction or how many people were interested in looking at what we were doing, but we were talking about audiobooks, we were talking about distribution, we are talking about also different things, and we had a lot of fun. And I was like, that's cool. It's just kind of two people talking. I can do that.
Yeah.
So I thought this year I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna come up and do that again. I'm gonna do a live narration of a very short, maybe 5 minute snippet of something, and just show people how it looks like when narrators actually tell the story, because it's quite some of us are quite physical, some of us are very straight and then just kind of act from here. It was really interesting even for me because there were other narrators coming on to do it, and just to see the different way people perform, it was fascinating for me. But that was my idea. I thought, oh yeah, that'd be cool to do that. But the back of my head, I went, okay, I'm expecting nobody to be interested. I'll probably need to go and look for some public domain books, and it would just be me talking into my camera.
Mm.
It was not the case. I sent out some emails, like I said, spent a lot of my time marketing and getting into connections with, picking up connections with anybody I knew who might be interested. And it turned out I had a lot of people, a lot of authors interested, and a lot of narrators interested. And it became a whole month of juggling and moving parts and putting things together.
Mhm.
It was a lot. And learning the tech. And then very, very late in the time, I realized that Instagram wasn't going to allow me to do a live because they just changed the live rules and you need 1,000 followers to go live on Instagram, which I was so far from.
I didn't know that, but
So, well, now you know.
yeah.
Um, but it worked out because, like I said, I'm pretty stubborn. So if I say I want to do something, I'm gonna look all over the place, all around the world to find the thing. And I figured out that I could do it on Facebook, but Facebook Lives, I think the reason people don't do Facebook Lives is because natively Facebook's quite tricky to organize a live. But somehow, some another God's grace, somebody in my narrating group was very good at that kind of stuff. So she hooked me up with a different program, and lo and behold, it was fine. There was a lot of technical problems, and on the second, I ran it 4 times, so it was every Friday. I called it 5 Minute Friday. And for 4 Fridays in June, I ran we did 3 stories and had a performance of the narration. And on the second day, there was a technical glitch and we could not hear anything. But I didn't know that because I didn't know that I should test. Anyway, it's a huge learning curve. I was very pleased to have come through the fire at the other end and made a lot of friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about technology. Like one day it works, and the next day it doesn't, and with regards to lives, I'm not a fan of Facebook Live. It is a little bit clunky when you're like on and you're trying to, invite people to join the live. And then Instagram, I found it much easier, even though there's a little bit of lag. But now that there's 1,000 users or followers or more rule, that might be challenging for some people. I enjoyed it. I love that you did one of our authors, Renee
Yes,
Hill with Bound. She just loved the narrator, the
he
gentleman.
was amazing. Yeah.
She loved him, and I hope that they end up working together. Um, and then, of course, you did our book, Bus Stop Buddies, which
Which
you
is
won
above
an
your
award
head.
for, or, your voice acting won an award through BookFest. So that's pretty cool to get recognition. So I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, but maybe you can think about it. Maybe towards the end, you can give us a little snippet sample of some of your talent with the
Oh,
voice. Just not answer a question in that voice. I don't care. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what your next projects are other than, I mean, of course you're doing the audiobooks and you're trying to get back into theater and stuff like that. Is there anything else on your docket that you want to pursue right now?
Wow. Yeah, it's just no, actually. It's I'm just trying to get I'm always just trying to get the next project going on. And at the moment, the project is I'm trying to get myself a little bit more organized. Seeing how we're in summer right now, I'm trying to get to narrate a book about winter or Christmas or something that's going to happen in 6 months so that when the time comes, I have something seasonal to talk about. So that's what I'm looking out for at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. We'll throw that out into the universe and
Yeah.
manifest it. Yeah. So do you ever get feedback from the children who listen to your audio books, your narration when you're doing children's books?
That's just made me think of so when I first started doing audiobooks, it was a lot of picture books and it was for very, very little children. And my I had a reader send me a listener, sorry, send me a picture, a video of her child listening to the book, and they thought it was a real person talking to them.
Oh.
And so every time the voice asked a question, like it was something like, "Well, can I play with you?" And he went, "Yes." It's just like so sweet.
That
Totally
is
made my day.
so, so cute. I
But
love
yeah,
it.
it was really, really sweet. Yeah. I don't have older readers or listeners telling me. I mean, there are a couple of reviews. Interestingly enough, I find because what one of the other things that I do with my audiobooks is with certain authors, I partner with them in distribution, and I'm very active in the promotion and the distribution, and I get to look at the data that comes through. And for some books, I find it actually like our sales are doing kind of okay. So we're selling, nice little figures. But the reviews in comparison, they're so difficult to get. Like
Mm.
nobody wants to leave us a review. Maybe we're doing.
Yeah, I totally am with you, sister, because when I try to get people to write a review for an audiobook, it's so easy, right? Like you're in the app already or whatever, and it's just a matter of hitting that 5 star or whatever, and it's so fast. But even with reading with print material, it's so hard. And I find that you have to really be diligent about following up with them and giving them a link even, and say, just click on this link. And sometimes
Mm.
it's just like, I don't know what to write. And I said, fantastic read, 5 stars. And I was like, just copy and paste it. So, I was just like, make it as easy as possible to try to get these reviews because at the end of the day, reviews help other audiobook listeners and, readers take a chance on a book or
Hmm.
narrator or an author that
They don't know. Yeah.
they don't know about. Yeah, and that just opens up a whole new world for them. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I was going to ask you about like just your home life. Tell us about your family. You mentioned kids. Would you like to share a little bit about them?
What can I say about my kids? So I live in London with my husband and our two boys and our seven bikes. I think it's seven at the moment. It keeps changing in numbers because we get more bikes and then we get rid of the little ones, and we're a biking family.
Hmm.
My boys are all bigger than me, like taller, and like to now pat me on the head.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's they're teenagers now. And it's I don't know what to say about my teenagers.
It's okay. They won't listen to this audiobook, so you
No, it's very testosterone in my household, and especially because I'm really wanting to narrate romance stories. It's they don't listen to what I
yeah,
narrate.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say they don't listen to the podcast, not the audiobook. But
No, but
so
they also don't listen to my audiobooks.
okay, what tips do you have for someone who Well, let's start with someone who wants to be an entrepreneur and start their own
Ooh.
business.
Ooh, that's a nice one. That's a great question. What I think I would start with why, with the why. Not the why, like, a lot of people go, oh, what's your vision and this and that. My question is very, very personal. Like, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to make a lot of money? Do you want to all the reason, like, do you want to be an entrepreneur because you like the entrepreneur type, the selling and the building and the connecting, or is it because you have a product that you really believe in? What is the first question? And then build around that. Because some people hate people. If you're not a people person, if you're like, you have a product that you really, really, really believe in and you love the product and you want to be an entrepreneur for that product or for that service, then it's a different thing you're going to do, like a different way you're going to build that from if you were somebody who just kind of loves connecting and building community, that's going to
Mhm.
be a different that's going to be a different route for you. And if I have anything to say about that, I'm just going to say that whatever you choose and whatever that answer is, it's the right answer. It's not because that you're not a people person, that you're not going to be great at your entrepreneurship. And it's not that if you don't, you just kind of like people and you don't really know what it is that you're going to sell at the moment, that you're not going to be a good entrepreneur. Like, whatever the reason you decide, that is the correct reason for you, and you should just go with it and find a way around every obstacle that comes your way, because there will be obstacles.
Yeah, I love entrepreneurship. I didn't think that this was going to be a path for me, but because I'm always like turning the crank in corporate America. But what I found about entrepreneurship is that A, you get to reinvent yourself. B, the skills that you're really good at that you may not know you're good at, they bubble to the top, and they get
Mm.
finer and finer as you refine and you pivot as you need to. But when you also think about it, you're the one who's creating something that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
Think about think about Nike, think about, all these, companies and businesses out there that wouldn't have existed if there wasn't that one entrepreneur who decided to give it a try. So anyways, I'm so thankful for you because you're out there slaying it. You're doing what I can't do, but I need someone like you. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that you're doing. I was going to also ask you, in the lines of entrepreneurship, like what kind of equipment should people have? How should they set things up? Do they take, a royalty split or do they do a per finished hour billing?
Hmm. That's very interesting questions too. Are you thinking about it from the point of view of authors, or are you thinking about it from the point of view of somebody who wants to be an audiobook narrator?
The latter. So who
So,
wants, yeah,
somebody who is thinking of being an audiobook narrator.
yes.
Um, the industry kind of best practice thing to do is to train. So, get some training as a storyteller, as a narrator, and then work towards per finished hour.
Mhm.
That's kind of the most straightforward route. In a way, the analogy would be you go to high school, you do really well, you apply to college, you do really well, you get a job. That's the most basic, most straightforward route. Train, apply to publishers, the big publishers and the big and the little publishers, and try and get your per finished hour rate. The reality is, whatever works for you.
Mhm.
You have just the reality is whatever works for you, start somewhere. So if you're an actor and thinking about it, you already have something. You've got the ability to tell stories because you're an actor, to act because you're an actor, to voice act, or you there will be things that if you're an actor, if you come from an acting background, there will be things that you don't know how to do in audiobook narration because they're very like there are small muscles that you need to tweak that's just for that specific form. Just like if you're a theater actor and you're moving into a screen, there's different things that you need to tweak in your performance, but the basics are there. If you come from radio, likewise, there will be some things that you already bring to using a microphone, connecting with your audience, those kinds of skills that you already have. But there will be things that you need to tweak as well. So no matter where you come from, unless you're already an audiobook narrator, you will have to take some kind of training. Some Depending on where you come from and what your background is, you may need less training or you may need more training. But whatever it is, you need some kind of training. So start there. And then once you've done that a little bit, go and do the real thing. Go and actually narrate something. There are places that you can get narration work without most of the time what our time is spent auditioning for narrating work, for narration work, and it can feel like you never actually get to narrate an audiobook. So the ways to go around that would be obviously, I don't know if it's obvious, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But one of the ways to get to do that would be royalty share. So where you collaborate with the author or the rights holder so that they're not paying you upfront and but you're sharing the royalties. And that's usually more in a sense, easier to get narration work with royalty share because the author or the rights holder doesn't have to come up with an upfront amount to pay you. And so they're more likely to be willing to do that with you. Another place to start would be to volunteer with certain organizations, like what's that one called? There are certain organizations that look for volunteers to narrate books because for the blind, for people who suffer from dyslexia, kids especially. I can't remember what that one is. Amy, I'm gonna have to give that link to you later on after the show because it's just gone out of my head. But there are organizations that you can volunteer with to practice your narration, and that is for a good cause. And and the work is very professionally done. So you do get professional credits with these kinds of volunteer work.
I love that. I remember actually when I was in college at Western Washington University, my first work study job was actually to read textbooks for
Text.
the visually impaired.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a great thing to do. So in terms of like software and equipment, like headphones, pop filters, that kind of stuff, what are your
Mm.
recommendations?
I'm gonna say that the microphone is really not the biggest deal. I think a lot of narrators, a lot of new people get scared about that and get very preoccupied with that, especially if you're a technical or a super non-technical person. If you're kind of in the middle, you probably won't have so much of that problem. But if you're like either very technical or very non-technical, that can really put you in a paralysis mode because you think, oh, the equipment's such a big deal. But honestly, if your space is quiet enough, the microphone just needs to be a basic condenser mic. And I'm gonna say this right outright. I'm not qualified to advice on the technical equipment, but with a quick kind of Google search in different Facebook groups or any kind of narration groups on Facebook or Instagram and just quick Googling, you'd be able to find a basic condenser mic, a software that you can use. There's free software that you can use, and there's and the microphone setup it's a couple of $100s to get that set up. Find out more about it by just online research. You'd be able to find out, and then just start. I think the hardest thing that puts people off from getting into narration is they try to consume a lot of the resources and they don't actually start.
Mm,
Just take that step, start, make the mistakes, and then try and figure it out along the way. There's a
yeah.
lots of help. The audiobook narration community, the voiceover community in America, in the UK, it's a really very supportive community.
What about like the room itself? Because when I first started doing this, I sat in my closet with all my clothes,
Yeah,
recording
yeah.
the sound. And um, is that a good way to start, you think?
I
To
did too. I'll tell you that. I did too. I sat in a closet with all my clothes and it was one of those my closet was a really terrible space now that I know more about acoustics. It was under the stairs. It was a space under the stairs. And so it's sloping. And so that actually makes the acoustics harder. I didn't know anything about that. But I just kind of stuck all sorts of stuff around to try to absorb the sound that was bouncing or off. And I just recorded. And I learned so much from it. And actually one of my first audiobooks was recorded in there on a very on a USB mic. Um and that's what happened. It's a starting point. It's not going to be the it's not going to be the end of your goal. It's not going to be something where you feel what I'm trying to say is the whole thing is always a journey
Mhm.
and you have to start somewhere. This if the space that you can have at the moment is a closet with clothes, that's cool.
Okay. So if an author comes to you or a publisher comes to you and wants you to audition or narrate a project, what's the best way to work with you? And what should we know about the process, or what kind of questions should we be asking you or any audiobook narrator that we're considering?
So let me that's a multi-layer question. So let's break that down a little bit. So if somebody wants to narrate and wants to have their like an author or an indie publisher has a book that they want to turn into audio,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing you want to know is how are you going to fund it? Do you have a budget already, or do you are you going to go and try to find a narrator who will split royalties with you? So you need to know that right from the get-go. You need to know what kind of how much control you want over the creation of your audiobook. There are people who have very specific ideas about how they want their book to sound. And then there are authors and rights holders who have a very have an idea, but they're very open and they want a more collaborative process. So also know that it's like if you're somebody who goes, I'm very specific that I want this kind of voice, this kind of accent, and I want to have three different narratives because there are three different sections of my books. And if you know those things, that's good. You have to make a decision on some of those, where you stand for those kinds of things. If somebody comes to me and says, I have an audiobook, I have a budget, I have a requirement for a certain accent or a certain type of voice. So whether, it's male, female, young, old, kind of middle age, those kinds of things that you're looking for. Or a vocal reference like David Attenborough or, somebody who has that you can use as a vocal reference. That's quite helpful for the narrator to go, yes, I can do that. No, I can't do that. If you know that your book is fiction or nonfiction and whether there are a lot of characters or it's mainly one character or is it third person point of view, first person point of view, and if it's first person it tends to be more you're trying if your book is fiction and first person, you're most likely trying to cast a narrator whose voice sounds like how you're hearing the character in your mind's ear when you've written the book.
Hmm.
And at this point, I want to say that audiobook narration is very, very subjective and very, very intimate. So just because you like or dislike or choose or don't choose a narrator does not mean that they're good or not good. It it just means that you prefer that. It could also mean if you have a team and then some of you like a certain narrator and some of you absolutely hate it and want to go with another person, it doesn't mean that one of you is right and one of you is wrong. You just need to remember that it's very subjective and you if there are people that you need to agree with to come to a decision about what kind of voice to have for your audiobook, then you need to find ways to agree because it's really intimate. It's really somebody just speaking into your ear and every time you read a book, you already have a voice in your head.
Hmm. Yeah, that is so, so true. And I love what you said about it being so subjective because you're right. You may not like a person's tone or voice or how they auditioned, doesn't mean that they're not a good narrator. It's a preference thing.
Yep.
Um,
It's
yeah.
just like a lot of us, like there are some great books out there that not everybody will love, and that's just how it is. And it also to pay, keep in mind that an audiobook narration is a performance. It's not really the narrator themselves who that's how they are. They're performing something, they're performing a story when they're
Mm,
narrating it. So in the audition or in any of the samples that you hear them do, that's their performance and that's the performance style. So you may not like that performance style, just like sometimes you see an actor on screen or Hollywood or whatever, and you're like, I love this actor, and somebody goes, oh my goodness, they're terrible. And it's not. It's just preference.
yeah. Yeah. It's just maybe one little mannerism that gets under,
Mm-hmm.
skin or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, because like my mother-in-law, she loves listening to audiobooks just like I
Mm.
do. But if she finds a narrator where she really loves their voice,
Mm.
she'll follow that narrator. It doesn't matter what they're reading,
Yeah.
what they're narrating. She will follow them just to listen to their voice and then find out that, she'll enjoy the book. Even if it's a bad book, a bad story, she'll still enjoy it. So let's talk a little bit about AI.
Oh,
Oh, I know. I'm going to open up the wild, wild west on this topic. How does AI impact you in the audio space?
that such a timely. I mean, it's the question of our times. No
Hmm.
avoiding it. I'm gonna say actually that I'm quite positive about it at the moment. Just to put it out there officially, I will not work with anybody who uses AI to replace creative work, creative people, creative. Again, coming back to the beginning of our conversation when I said like in every industry there is creativity. But what I mean is if somebody has a craft and has worked on their craft and has trained and has, you know, spent time and effort learning how to do something, I think that's something that needs to be done by them. Like in the audiobook world, that would be writing, that would be narrating, that would be cover design,
Hmm.
those kinds of jobs. If you use any of if you use AI to replace any of that, then I feel like we're not good fits with each other. That's personally, I wouldn't work with anybody who likes that kind of likes to explore that kind of technology in their creation because it's a different type of creation from what I want to do. But I am currently feeling much more positive about in the whole AI climate than 3, 4 years ago. So for me, as a voice actor, as a narrator, the whole AI threat came about 2022.
Hmm.
It was for the rest of the world. It was still quite early. I think ChatGPT launched in November, and in 2022 January, a lot of us were up in arms about how Apple had stolen a whole bunch of narrative voices from Findaway Voices at that point where there was still Findaway Voices, and had just trained them on machines. And so we were up in arms about it, and we were a small community and making a lot of very, very angry, and people basically took no notice of us very much. No, didn't take very much notice of us. And so 2022, 2023 were very hard years for I think, the voiceover community, because we saw a lot of work just kind of disappear and everyone kind of jumping on the bandwagon. I had people call me and say to me like, in 6 months, your profession's going to be obsolete.
Mm.
But having said that, the I feel like the artistic community has come together and band together, and readers and people who love music, who listen to a lot of, who listen to a lot of music. These people are coming together and say we don't want the AI. We're really fed up with the AI. And what's even better is that huge companies who were kind of the forerunners in going, let's test out the AI and let's replace all our human narratives with AI voices. A lot of them, not maybe not enough of them, but a huge number of them are coming back and going, we don't want AI voices anymore.
Mhm.
One of an example I'm going to say is Blinkist. I don't know if you know Blinkist, but it's not really. Blinkist is a company that kind of takes any topic and summarizes them into bite-sized consumption, like 5-minute things, so you can quickly learn about different parts of the world or different topics that you always were interested in, but never really had the time to read a huge 2 or 3 books about it.
Mhm.
And they were doing AI narration voices in 2022, 2023, maybe even earlier. But very recently, they have turned around and they have said we were wrong in our decision, and we are now going forward from now, we will no longer use AI voices, and that is very encouraging for the whole community out here. And I feel like there's a tide that's slowly turning. There are commercials, high end luxury. I don't know if you call them luxury, but the people who kind of dictate the markets, they're going, we actually don't want AI, and they're very sensitive about it. They're like, is your voice AI? Is your when they're doing an ad for something, is that image AI? Because they really don't want the AI, and that is very encouraging. And I
That
think
is encouraging because nowadays it's like when I turn on the TV, I see a commercial. I'm like, oh my God, the whole commercial was done in AI,
yeah,
or you're listening to a podcast or you're listening to an album, it's all AI.
yeah.
Sometimes you can't tell, which is also upsetting because you think it's a real person sometimes. You're like, you know, there's no recourse, right? There's no follow-up. There's nothing you can do. And it's maddening when you feel like you don't have any participation or you're not in control, right?
And I think you'd be very happy to know that a lot of these music streaming platforms are now saying that we will clearly label everything that has used AI in their creation. They will label it so you can go, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't
Mhm.
want that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people struggle with that because they sometimes they can't tell the difference
Hmm.
immediately, but they can tell the difference kind of halfway through it, and they feel very cheated.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's and that actually, I just want to encourage all the listeners out there, if that is you, please go back to the whoever you bought or consumed that content from and say to them, I really don't like that. Halfway through it, I found that it was a lot of it was AI, or I think it was AI. I really don't like it. It helps everybody that if you didn't like it and you didn't have a good experience because it was AI halfway through, you realized it was AI halfway through, that you go back and you say that, because that will make more and more retailers and platforms and the people with the money and the budget, who will be able to say, okay, we're gonna keep. Maybe we won't keep it all. Maybe it won't ever be completely AI free, but you'll be able to tell that's the AI stuff and that's
Mhm.
the non AI stuff.
Yeah. When I opened up my trilogy, Snow in Vietnam, Snow in Seattle, Snow in
Hmm.
the Kitchen, for audiobook narrators. I had some good, people who auditioned, but then I also had people who submitted AI voices, and I was just
Hmm.
like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It was so frustrating because, they were pronouncing the names wrong and just it was very monotone at times, that kind of stuff. And so it was very disturbing. I was going to ask you also, what should a budget look like for an author who wants to hire a narrator? Because, I think you kind of pay, you get what you pay for. Kind of
You
like,
do.
right, when you're writing a book, you want to spend your money on the illustration or the book cover and definitely the editor. When you're doing an audiobook, you definitely don't want to skimp on a narrator. And when I first started doing this, I could have hired a narrator that was $50 per finished hour, but I also got, a narrator who didn't know what they were doing and couldn't edit the sound and remaster it and that kind of stuff. And now I feel like, it's 400 per finished hour or $500 per finished hour. So it's not, you know, it's something you definitely need to budget for. What about
Okay. So the quick answer to that question is SAG-AFTRA, sorry. The union rate is $250 US dollars per finished hour just for the narration.
yeah.
So that means you have to factor in editing, proofing, mastering. And that's
Mhm.
probably going to be another 100. Yeah, I think if I think a safe amount is $350 per finished hour, you would definitely be able to get a decent narrator and a decent person who will edit and master who knows what they're doing, like you say. I feel like 400 and 500, obviously there will be narrators who charge in that range and um as well. But then equally, you can find someone there are a lot of newer narrators who will happily charge you less because they want the work and they want to do that as well. So I think like I said, the straightforward way to let you know this is the union rate is $250 and above for just the narration alone. Now, if you have a long book, like 10, if your book is 10 hours, an hour's audiobook is roughly 9,000 to 10,000 words long. So if you have 10-hour book, you're easily paying $2,500 for your audiobook production. But there is a lot of work that goes on behind that, and a lot of people have trained very hard to be able to do that work quickly for you to do that, to give you that kind of quality. So you are paying for something, you are paying for quality, and you're paying for someone's training, and you're paying for someone's expertise and their experience.
Yeah.
Sorry, there is a huge helicopter going on right at the back.
Oh, okay. It's
Can
not
you hear
picking up
that?
on the
It's not
phone.
picking
Okay,
up. Great.
good. You're in a good room. Yeah, I totally agree with you because mind you, I've only done two audiobooks, and that was enough for me to say this ain't for me. Because, it's not just having the commitment to get into the studio or into your closet and read, and you're not even reading, you really are acting, you're
You're performing it.
performing, and it takes a lot out of you. Um, but then you make mistakes or you fumble or you try different things, right? And so that one per finished hour is probably going to take you 3 or 4 hours to actually do when you
Hmm.
think about the editing and the mastering and all that stuff that goes behind that. And I don't know if authors realize how much work. And so when they scoff at, oh, I'm paying you $200 an hour per finished hour, that's a lot, but no,
Hmm.
it really isn't because, yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it. All right, my dear. Well, we're already coming up to our hour, and I have some lightning round questions for you.
Oh gosh, I need a drink of water.
This might be the easiest part.
You're gonna make me do a voice, are you? You're gonna make me do a funny voice?
Are you game?
I don't know. Let's try.
Okay. I'm going to challenge you to answer the lightning round questions in a voice that's not yours.
Okay.
Okay. Not your natural voice. Okay, coffee or tea?
That's always gonna be tea for me, actually. Yeah.
Okay, well, fiction or nonfiction?
Um, maybe. No, definitely fiction.
Favorite accent to perform?
Ah. Wait. Hmm.
You're miming. You're speechless. I love it. Listeners, you got to go onto YouTube and Spotify to see her. Don't listen on Audible. Okay. One word that describes your younger self.
I think it's gonna be very, very difficult.
You are difficult. One word that describes you today.
Um, I think today yeah, today I'm pretty hopeful. Yeah, yeah,
Hopeful. I love it.
yeah, hopeful.
A book everyone should listen to.
Ooh, I'm currently listening to, I can't remember the title. It's called The Bequest, and it's I think it's a romance, but it's about mountains in Utah, and yeah, it's pretty good. I I keep going back to it. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got three more for you. Stage. Stage or recording studio? What's your preference?
Oh, that is not fair. Um, that Amy, that is really, really not fair. It's like asking a woman to choose between her two lovers in front of her two lovers. It's just not fair.
Okay, honey. You're almost off the hook. Morning or night recording sessions?
Hands down, I gotta do it in a voice that's not my own. Okay, so in the morning, you have this ability to be really like, your voice is kind of loose, they say, because you sleep, you wake up, and so always morning.
Morning. Okay,
Morning.
last one. If your life were an audiobook, what would the title be?
The seven different faces of you in the morning.
Hmm. Seven faces of you in the morning. Okay, well, you better start writing that book.
I'm not.
All right, honey. Well, is there anything that you want to talk about or highlight that we didn't cover, Charlotte?
Um, I just want to thank you for this opportunity and for taking that. Amy, you took a chance on me, meeting. I think we met on LinkedIn and, we just took a chance to meet with me and then took a chance on me with your kids audiobook. And I want to thank you for that. And I think also for me, I always want to say that everything in my life boils down to the fact that my faith is in God and God directs my paths. And so that is one thing that I didn't talk about in this conversation with you. And I wanted to say all glory to.
Amen. I love that. Thank you. All right, listeners, that is a wrap. May Charlotte's journey remind us that success rarely begins with certainty, it begins with courage. And sometimes it starts with one phone call on the yellow pages, which we don't have anymore these days.
But you can write that LinkedIn message or send that Instagram message or just
Absolutely.
say yes.
So yes. Sometimes it starts with hearing a no over and over again. Sometimes it starts with believing in yourself when no one else understands your dream. Charlotte's story is a powerful reminder that our greatest opportunities often lie just beyond the expectations others place upon us. So by choosing authenticity over approval, Charlotte was able to build a career dedicated to bringing stories to life and helping listeners experience the written word in an entirely new way. If today's conversation encouraged, inspired, or challenged you to take one step closer to your dream, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, remember your story matters, your voice deserves to be heard, and sometimes the boldest chapters begin when you dare to write your own ending. I'm Amy M. Lee, and this is Quixotic Heights.
Charlotte.
And yes, and this is Charlotte Chiew. Please keep reaching for the heights only you can imagine. Until next time. And Charlotte, once again, thank you so much for joining us. I just love your work. I'm a big fan of yours, and I hope we can meet in person one day, and I can give you a big hug. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. It was so lovely to be here and to be with you.
Thank you. And now a quick message from our sponsor. Thanks for tuning in.
Are you burned out? Running on empty. Shift your mind and the rest will follow. From compassion fatigue to connection. And from singled out to celebrated. Want less chronic fatigue, apathy, outbursts, detachment, poor performance, and injuries? Want to learn to say no without guilt, set boundaries, regulate your vagus nerve, and gain confidence? Zen out, hike, visit friends, join a group, eat fresh, and stand tall. Once I learned to regulate my vagus nerve, my emotions improved, said Simone. Spending time in nature was a game changer for me, said Katie. CEU courses offered for licensed physical therapists and assistants, also courses without testing for the general public. So fall of 2026, go to dbrit.com to sign up for Running on Empty. Shift your mind and the rest will follow.